Hello, I'm 𝗀𝗀𝗆, the small business owner of 𝗳𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀, and welcome to a Pack With Me video. As you might know, I am trying to get back into vlogging long-form content, which has proven to be quite difficult as it requires a lot of time investment. And it's not just for the filming and camera angles and all of that, but also for the actual video editing. Obviously, there's still a lot for me to learn when it comes to creating aesthetic, but still realistic and meaningful content. So I hope you'll join me on this journey. My shop, 𝗳𝗀𝗆𝗀𝗀, turned 4 in September, which is super exciting, but also kind of surreal. It is crazy to think that I finally kickstarted this shop in the height of COVID when I was just 15 years old. Like, that is pretty nuts. And if you guys don't know my art history, I have been somewhat of a hobby artist for as long as I can remember. My mum was a particularly talented sketching artist, and it was just a matter of inspiration and bonding with her. I started a side hustle on Etsy in 2017 when I was 12, and it was just me selling some handmade stickers that I made, and it was honestly not too serious since it was just a major learning curve for me. But when COVID hit, a lot of small businesses started popping up, and I was one of them. Inspired by my peers and my love for journaling, I decided to make sticker sheets, which soon expanded to other forms of merch. One of my biggest dreams was to finally be on the other side of the artist alley at conventions, and I achieved that dream in 2022 at 17. So I've obviously hit a lot of goals in the past few years. I've decided to take this leap, and now I just have to keep it consistent and keep pushing to grow even more. These orders that you'll see me pack are from my shop anniversary update, and as I pack, I will be doing a small Q&A session of all the things, or most of the things that I've been asked about in my years of running this small business. Obviously, as a disclaimer, my answers will be based on my own experiences as a young small business owner, and everyone will always have different experiences, different responses, and outcomes to certain situations and topics, and that's completely okay. I think hearing different perspectives will help guide you on your journey, and hopefully this Q&A will help inspire you to finally kick off that dream of yours. Now let's get started onto our first question. Was it hard to get started? Of course, and it is still hard to this day. Running a small business is very time consuming as it requires you to manage quite literally everything. From managing the shop, doing market research, ideating marketing materials, designing and creating products, and just a whole lot of other tasks to do and handle. It is quite labor intensive, and it can be physically, mentally, and emotionally draining at times. The reality is that the small business owners and influencers that you look up to and watch on your screen don't always show you their worst and most vulnerable days. Like, I know I don't really do that. And just because you don't see that side of business doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and won't apply to you, because it will. Ups and downs in business is inevitable, and personally I believe that if you are not a very resilient and adaptive person, business may not be the route for you. I've had my fair share of bad days and really bad situations, and I honestly would not be here today with my small business going strong if I did not bounce back. So it's important to ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this? What can I handle? Would I be okay with a lack of stability? Would I still be able to push through in a long-term slump? It is also okay to know that being a business owner is just not for you. It can be overwhelming, but if you are ready, then just push through. Now onto the next question. How and where do I get started? I found that there are 2 or technically 3 types of mindsets when it comes to running a small art business. The business first, the creative first, and a mix of both. The business first mindset focuses on doing market research to identify untapped markets to cater towards their audience, while the creative first focuses on generating income based on their own personal love and branding. So I know a lot of peers who focus on business as they do want to make it their main source of income, so their research and marketing is impeccable, and they are often successful with that approach. Of course, there are also a lot of creatives that I know who focus on creating art that is in tune with them and just art that they want to create. because they love doing it. And they are also in a very, very lucky position to have an audience that also share their love for it. For me, I would say I am kind of a mix of both, but leaning towards more business first, which might sound a little bit surprising since I've always emphasized how important being a creative is, but luckily for me, there is a very good overlap in the art I want to create and the untapped market that I want to cater to. While I do love drawing, my first and foremost goal is to generate enough income so that it may turn into my main source of income in the future. So I tend to prioritize projects that will generate said income over passion projects. There are times when the passion project is valued by my audience, and that is when I would consider myself lucky. This kind of mindset can quickly burn you out though, which is why it is important to be able to tap into both mindsets so that you can have a good balance. Obviously, after you decide on which model you want to start with and have discovered your branding and niche, it's always good to take a look at other businesses in the same category. Doing a business analysis is pretty standard practice and will give you an idea or rough guide on how to navigate your own, especially when it comes to do's and don'ts. And as you grow, you'll continue to experiment with what works for you and what doesn't. And it's important to keep in mind that the best businesses are continuously learning and adapting. Somewhat continuing off of that, while still answering another question, do I need followers to be able to sell? The answer is yes and no. I think it really depends on your revenue goal, but technically you don't really need a huge following to sell. Realistically, when you are starting out, you'll likely have 0 followers unless you were previously an influencer. Of course, having a large following does help to gain a lot of revenue, but it is still possible to earn some cash money without crazy follower numbers. There are online marketplaces such as 𝗀𝗃 and Redbubble that are beginner friendly in the sense that they'll bring the audience to you. I started out on 𝗀𝗃, and if you don't know what 𝗀𝗃 is, it is basically just an online marketplace where consumers can search for a certain product, and if you list that product or something similar, your items will pop up. It is a really good way to learn about online marketplaces, SEOs, and gain exposure when you are still starting out. However, as you move along, you'll find that 𝗀𝗃's fees and all the other extra stuff that I don't actually know about because I haven't used 𝗀𝗃 since 2017, 𝗀𝗃 might not really be worth it. Especially if you've got a bigger online presence, other popular platforms for online stores include 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀, Square, and Shopify. Now, I won't go too into depth with those, but it is something to look into. Another great place to start is looking into boothing at in-person art markets, conventions, and other similar events. These days, there are a lot of new and upcoming small art markets that are very beginner friendly and quite literally brings an audience to you. Art market tables typically cost about $100 to $200, not including other expenses. Usually there are also uni-led markets that are free to table at as long as you are or were a student and apply. As you get bigger, looking into large conventions would also help to build a more stable income, but the tables typically cost $400 to $600 now and are unfortunately rising as the years go on. Even if the market is not doing amazingly in terms of revenue, it is still a very, very rich experience, an opportunity to network with other artists and small business owners, as well as potential buyers. I know plenty of people who make a living off of doing in-person events only, who don't necessarily have a massive following, so it's a very viable way to get started. The next question is, what social media platform or type of content drives the most sales? Personally, I don't think there's a correct answer for this, since it really is dependent on the person. But for me, I put a main focus on Instagram, since it's what I'm most familiar with, and I find it as the best place that combines stories, static posts, and short form content all in one. TikTok would be my next in line, since making short form content is always fun for me, but I do find TikTok's algorithm to be a little bit unexpected, so I don't think I could fully rely on TikTok to reach my audience. I know Twitter or X or whatever it's called now is also a great place, but I find that illustration-based artists would do better there than like small business models like me. YouTube also has a high viewer to sales conversion rate, but it is reliant on having consistent viewers and subscribers, which is something I'm currently working towards, so I can't really make a big comment on how well that is going right now. As for the type of content to create, I find that my reels do the best. Given I have kind of cracked down on the formula for reels, but posts, like static posts, still do decent as long as I'm posting my illustrations. I find that my update posts are not really as worth unless I am posting it to my story as well. Obviously, in the end, the more you stick with a certain platform and type of content, the faster you'll find your voice and branding, and the easier it'll be for your audience to recognize that it's you. This will eventually lead to loyal customers and consistent sales. Onto another sales-driven question: what is a good way to increase sales at an in-person event? Now, I am a big advocate for a nice eye-catching display. People love looking at aesthetic displays, and I know I love looking at them. So making sure that you design a display that reflects your branding and products really well is important so that you are attracting the right audience. There's nothing worse than feeling like you are being baited into a store that showcases a theme that they don't even sell. It's also important to think about the tiers in your booth, and what I mean by that is like visually, how you're displaying your items on your booth, what products you're placing at eye level, which I would recommend being your best sellers, how you're drawing attention to specific products, especially the smaller items, like say washi tapes, smaller stickers, like how you are getting people to see them, and what kind of signage you are using to attract your customers. I know that there are a lot of small businesses out there who have created some really cute and funky mascots and signage that look absolutely beautiful, and it really does capture an audience's eye, so it is something to look into and consider. On that note, it is also good to consider offering deals for same price products, because who doesn't love a good deal? Yes, you will be selling the items for maybe $1 or $2 less in the deal than individually, but in the end you are pushing for sales. So for example, I sell my sticker sheets for $8 each, but I do offer a deal 3 for $21, which means it comes down to $7 each per sticker sheet. Yes, I am losing say like $3 in total if I sell it in a deal, but people who are looking to purchase more, say that there's someone out there who wants to purchase 2 of them and they see the deal, they're gonna be like, you know what, why not? Maybe I'll just grab 1 extra sticker sheet. I am saving overall, right? And in the end, for you, that's good for you, because then you are pushing for a higher price point in sales. So instead of trying to push $8 each time with a customer, you're just pushing for $21 per customer, which personally I think that's a lot better. And also it's good for me since I do a lot of interstate and international conventions now, which means that the more I sell, the more products I sell, the less items I have to bring back, which is fantastic because I really don't want to bring them back to Australia, back to Sydney. So yeah, obviously I might do another video going more in depth into like in-person events, where I talk about like the realities of boothing and just like tips and tricks and all of that. So obviously just keep in tune. We'll be doing that soon, hopefully. Now on to the next question. How many products do I need to get started? Unfortunately, there isn't a right number for this. It really does depend on a lot of factors, such as what you're willing to make, if it's a shop update or a collection drop, what type of product you're releasing, and how often you do shop updates. For my first drop, I had around 5 sticker sheet designs to offer, I think doing minimum 3 designs will give you a leeway to classify it as a mini collection drop of some sort, which I find is enough to get people excited about your shop launch and your products. Obviously, having at least one product is enough. It will generate you enough income to get started, but as you move along in your timeline, you'll start to get an idea of how your audience shops and what you are capable of releasing in one product or collection drop. Now this leads into the next question pretty well, which is how often I should create new items. As I was saying, it is important to know your schedule and your timeline. This doesn't just include the time it takes for you to design your products, but also how long it will take for you to produce and manufacture them, how long it will take for you to create your marketing materials, how long it will take for you to do the actual marketing, to create buzz on your next drop, and more, obviously. And as you learn and grow, you will start to figure out your limits and how you perform these tasks leading up to the shop update. This will give you a rough idea of how much you create and how often you release these creations. For me, I try to do a shop update at least every 2 to 3 months. I find that doing large shop updates works the best for me, since there is quite a lot of admin work that goes into launching a drop. I draw pretty often, like every month-ish, but I am also working on multiple projects at the same time. This is mainly because I try to have a fresh item for my conventions at every new city I go to, even if it's just one item. The accumulation of these new items will eventually lead to a collection big enough for an online store update. My timeline also fluctuates depending on what item I want to produce. Since I outsource pretty much all my manufacturing now, I have to keep into account the production and shipping time for these products to actually arrive at my doorstep and be ready to sell. I typically bulk order too, since it does reduce my overall unit cost, so you'll find that I pump out multiple designs for one type of product to capitalize on that. So most of my shop updates will just be of one type of product but multiple designs. Like, for example, I've released a season 2 of my cie_𝗁𝗵𝗃 like sticker sheet collection, which basically had 8 new designs of like different cie_𝗁𝗁𝗃s and all that, but it was just the one type of product, which is like good enough, by the way. So often than not, a lot of the designs I do create won't actually even see the light of day until at least a month or 2 later, because a lot of manufacturing and production time does take quite a while. Like, that is usually the minimum. So I would work my marketing and product launch around that timeline. It's also important to note that the holiday and sale seasons that you can participate in as a small business to get yourself out there and to maximize on consumer spending. For example, October to December, so like currently right now, is one of the prime times to have a shop update or like a shop sale or anything related to that, as many consumers will be looking to get gifts for friends and family, or even just to treat themselves since it is the holiday season. But obviously, to reiterate, the most important thing is to create items around your schedule. You're not a machine, and you'll always have factors affecting your schedule. Like right now, I have a lot of uni assignments and it's like exam period right now, so I am not currently creating anything. And I can't actually create anything because obviously you have different priorities and stuff. But just make sure that you are creating what you can and what you want to create, and then build your shop update timeline around that schedule. Now onto the next and final question. Do I need to personalize my packaging, and how do I do it? The answer is no, you don't need to do it per se, but I do find that customers appreciate personalized and cute packaging. I think it's a great way to become more memorable as a shop and as a brand, as packaging is a great way to kind of showcase your aesthetics, your items, your products, and your brand identity. You might even find yourself having customers who do cute little unboxings of your package that they post and share, which is essentially user-generated content that markets your shop. There are plenty of ways that you can personalize your packaging that is tailored to your brand, which a lot of it can be inspired by the packaging in the items that you've bought and received in the past. Currently, I manufacture all my packaging in bulk, and all of this is outsourced externally. And this includes my illustrated business cards and thank you cards, my custom tissue paper that you can see me pack with right now, my custom washi tape, and my custom stamps that I use to brand my bags at conventions, my custom water activated packing tapes as well. Previously, all of my branding was very green as I tapped into the concept of my shop's brand mascot being a frog. But since I am currently in my marine era, I decided to incorporate more of those marine themed patterns and illustrations to reflect that shift in branding. Obviously, when you're first starting out, it's understandable to not want to commit to this level of personalized branded packaging, especially if you're still experimenting with themes and colors and finding your brand identity. If anything, I would highly recommend not putting a lot of money into packaging and branding when it's your first time. I think a great way to personalize packaging from home is simply printing cute patterns or logos that reflect your brand onto some plain tissue paper or vellum paper, which is the kind of translucent waxy paper that you can get at Officeworks or Amazon or whatever, or even your envelopes. If you'd like and also have the extra time, you can also consider doing handwritten thank you notes that are included in every order. This is something I actually used to do until I got so many orders that it just wasn't efficient enough for me to continue doing so, and plus it started giving me wrist pain. But it is something that you can consider. You can also consider using your own stickers and washi tape or other decorative elements to decorate the packaging. If you've got some B-grade or miscut sticker sheets that you made at home, or just some stickers that you don't really want to use in your own personally and don't mind using it for packaging, definitely go ahead and use that. It's a great way to showcase what other products you have or what kind of aesthetic you're going for. You could also consider using cute strings and ribbons to kind of tie up and package your items, little mailers, you know. I know some shops who have done that before. I know I've tried that before as well. Just as a note, obviously, when you do use strings and ribbons, it does make your package slightly bulkier and would also make your package slightly heavier. And if you are shipping them, could cost a little bit more. But yeah, it really does depend on what kind of aesthetic that you're going for and what aesthetic you want to present. And just the materials and items that you do have on hand. I find that it is a little bit unnecessary to spend an excessive amount on packaging, as in the end the customers are there for the actual product that they purchased, and the personalized packaging is just an added memorable bonus. Now, I feel like I've yapped on a lot, and I know that there are probably still a lot of other questions out there, but I do hope that some of my personal experiences and insights can give you a better and hopefully more realistic perspective on running a small art business. It is overwhelming at first, and it does require you to put in a lot of hard work, both physically and mentally, but it can also be a very satisfying experience when you feel that sense of accomplishment. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and again, I hope that I have helped you a little bit. If you guys want, feel free to drop some more questions or other comments in the comment section below. I'll try to answer them or even consider them for my next video. But for now, this is me signing off, and see you next time.